Hello, everybody. Happy Spooktober. Because we're going to be pushing this out right after Halloween, right?
I think you mean right before Halloween?
Oh, yeah, I'm on drugs. Yeah, we're going to be doing that, 4 days before Halloween?
Yeah. Indeed. Spookiest month of the year. We've got some spooky shit to talk about today. At least I do. I have no idea what you're talking about. It's probably some mindless nonsense, but we'll...
Excuse me? My stories are always top quality, and some dare say the best.
Cool. Well, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking Melvin, Juice Theorem.
Juice there. Is that the one with the robot on it? No, it's a weird science-y guy.
It's extra juicy.
Nice. I am drinking a beer from Proper Brewing Co. It's called I Am the Witch.
Look at me. I am the witch now.
It's a golden ale with pumpkin and spices. I don't know. We'll see.
Ooh.
Are you into pumpkin beer?
I'm not. I don't like that pumpkin spice. Never been to Starbucks. You know?
Yeah, it's
not into it.
I feel like the stouts are pretty good because it's like dark and thick anyway. So it's like when you get like those other tastes, it's fine. I don't know how it's going to be with a golden ale, but we'll try it and see. But I think I'm going to double down in light of Spooktober because I also have another one. It's not a beer, but they had like this like Halloween section at the liquor store. And I got a cocktail, and it's an absinthe cocktail. So...
They got cooler stuff at your liquor store. They had like some themed alcohol, like hard liquor at mine, but like that was it.
Yeah, but yours is all cold. Like yours is cool.
They got refrigerators here.
Yeah, mine's all lukewarm. Yours is like ready to drink as you're driving home. It's fucking great.
That's true. Very true.
Crack a cold one on your drive home. Don't do that. I'm not advocating drinking and driving. So I watched not one but two scary movies since we last recorded. They were okay.
I'm listening.
First one was it's called Hold Your Breath, and it's on Hulu. It was okay. It was it's like this woman and her two daughters that like live in the middle of like this really desolate, deserty, dry place. And like the backstory is like it's so dusty that like their house is consistently just covered in dust, and the kids tell this story about like the gray man who like supposedly can like disappear into dust, and you breathe him in and it causes you to do crazy shit. So like the whole time they're like seeing this guy out in the dust, and they're always like worried about shit. And yeah, it was okay. I called the twist, and I was like, shit, that's when you can call it, I don't know, it kind of ruins it for me because it's so predictable. I was like, I know exactly what's going to happen.
You know what? I'm going to jump in just real quick. I did see the scary movie, The Last Thing That Mary Saw, and it was literally ass.
Oh.
It was the worst film I've ever seen. It was horrible. I literally hated it. I would probably give it 0 out of 5 pumpkins. It was literally, I didn't want to finish it, but I was too lazy. I watched it all the way through. It did not get better. So if you ever see that show, just do not fucking hit play. I'm not even going to give you the plot because the plot is horrible. The plot is ass.
You were just stuck by the perpetual boredom. Like you just couldn't get off the couch.
No, it was just a giant supply of horrible, horrible shit.
And you said it's the last thing Mary saw?
Yeah. Don't watch that show.
I won't add it to my list. But the other one I watched was Woman of the Hour. And that was actually pretty good. It was on Netflix. So it's kind of interesting because it's based off of a true story. And it's about the killer Rodney Alcala. Do you remember that guy? Do you remember Rodney Alcala?
Oh, good old Rodney. Rodney and I go back.
But it's based on like true events, and it's actually pretty creepy. It's like this serial killer who is like a photographer, and he like targets women and girls. And anyway, he shows up on a game show called The Dating Show, and he's one of the 3 bachelors that the lady picks, and he's a fucking creep. And the actual like talk show, the actual game show is aired on like, you can watch it on YouTube. It's fucking creepy, man. But that one was okay. You should check that one out. For tonight, I am going to be talking about 2 true crime stories.
And I'll be covering 2 unsolved murders or crime.
All right, I'll start. So the first case that I'm going to be covering is it's pretty gruesome. So, of course, listener discretion is always advised. The setting in this case is Canada, and the monster responsible for the case we're going to talk about is a man named Adam Strong, and his conviction came about after a shocking phone call made to police after a horrifying discovery was made at his apartment. Let's jump into it. 19-year-old Candace Fitzpatrick was first reported missing in 2010 when her family hadn't heard from her in over a year. It's crazy that you have to wait a whole year not hearing from your family. Like, I wonder if something's wrong.
They're like, yeah, you know, she usually calls me around 6 months out of the year, and I'm getting a little concerned. It's been 2 times.
I didn't get my 9-month phone call, so I began to worry. The police had only a few leads when the report was made, and the case had pretty much gone cold. Almost a decade later, another missing persons report was made, this time for 18-year-old Rory Hatchie. Her family in Oshawa had reported it to the authorities. Sadly, her torso was found several weeks later in Oshawa Harbor by a fisherman and his grandson. That's kind of a rough fishing trip. You go to catch a bass and you catch a torso instead.
Like, son of a bitch, not again.
Just throws it back in. And I want a fucking torso. That's horrible. Even more sad, she had been pregnant when she was murdered.
That's sad, man.
Yeah. So it was pretty rough. Like, she had, she was 18 years old, and I think it was her grandma was like, I had just talked to her not too long ago, and she had taken her to the store to get a pregnancy test and all that good stuff. So I don't know if it was like a good pregnancy or whatever, but anyway, very sad stuff. On December 29th, 2017, plumbers had been called to an apartment building on McMillan Drive after the pipes of their main floor apartment had been clogged horrifically. The tenants had debated calling a plumber for quite some time, but the tenant below them insisted that he himself could clear the blockage and would snake the pipes himself. So it's like they were like suspecting it was blocked from the basement. And they're like, I'm going to call a plumber. He's like, no, I got it. Don't worry about it.
I'll do it. Just don't ask questions.
Do not call the plumbers. So the tenants let him do his thing, but after some time, it was clear that the blockage wasn't getting any better. If anything, it was getting worse, which prompted them to call the plumbers. So the upstairs tenants called the plumbers. The plumbers arrive, probably expecting your average clog, which they'd knock out in just a few hours. But we wouldn't.
There's a femur in there.
Ooh. But we wouldn't be talking about this case if it was just a typical plumber story. Can you imagine? Like, they showed up and everything was fine. On to you, Cleet.
That was great. Yeah, everything's great. The horror story was the bill.
Yeah. You wouldn't believe the bill they got. It was excruciating. They got to work on the bottom floor of the apartment building. Jeremiah Wildeboer, one of the plumbers who was called to the apartment, mentioned that Strong was being annoying and hovering over him the entire time, constantly asking questions about what they suspected the blockage was and how long it'd take to clear.
You don't think it's like a person down there, do you?
Literally, he was like hovering over them, like, what do you guys think it is? What is it? What do you think could be causing this? And like literally just badgering these plumbers the entire time. They're trying to clear the fucking blockage.
You don't think there's like a dead body in there, do you?
Like, what do you think it could fucking be in there, man? Like, it's just not coming out. What are the odds it's a body, huh? What are the odds? Oh, man. It's funny because, like, it's genuinely like what fucking happened. So, after having no luck from the bottom floor, the plumbers made their way upstairs to the other apartment in an attempt to clear it up there. Without being prompted, Strong followed them upstairs and continued to watch them as they work. So he's like, I'll just go upstairs with you. I just want to see what's going on. What is it, a fucking body? Like, what is it? How long do you think it's going to be?
It's definitely not a body.
Definitely not. Like, there's no way, right? Right? There's no way.
I didn't do it.
If it is, wasn't me. I don't know. It's so fucking stupid. The plumbers testified at court that they were beginning to think that this guy doesn't give up. He was really annoying us at this point. He was hovering quite a bit. So that's like literally what they said in court. The plumbers began removing a substance that was pink and was coming out in strips with hair on it. The plumbers testified as well that Strong began making comments like, "That's so gross. What is that?" as well as asking how it would have gotten there in the first place. The plumbers continued pulling the substance out, filling plastic grocery bags with the stuff. Without saying anything to Strong, they texted pictures of their disgusting discovery to their boss. The boss texted back with a message that simply read, "Pack up your tools, don't be obvious." Yeah. So he's like texting pictures, like these massive grocery bags just stuffed with like this stringy pink gelatinous stuff with hair all over it. Like, that's just disgusting. He's like, yeah, get the hell out of there. So the plumbers packed up and they left, telling Strong that they'd be back the next day with larger equipment. The plumber said that this made him seem excited. He's like, ooh, yes, get the bigger tools and come back. So he's like super excited about it. Like, I don't know, fucking weird.
I bet.
Shortly after leaving, they phoned the police. After the call, 4 police officers showed up and knocked on the basement apartment door, and a man answered. One of the officers asked him point blank what it was that Strong was flushing down his toilets. He responded simply with, "Okay, you got me. The gig's up. It's a body."
Easy, breezy cover girl.
Yeah. It's just weird. He's like, "Yep, the gig's up. It's a body." He said, if you want to recover the rest of her, it's in my freezer." Adam Strong was arrested and charged with first-degree murder for the death of 18-year-old Rory Hatchie. Strong is also accused of killing Candace Fitzpatrick, who had vanished clear back in 2018. The police said that Strong tried to become friendly with him at the scene when he talked about serial killers and his hobbies, past girlfriends, religion, and how he just doesn't associate with drug addicts. So they're there trying to arrest him, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't know. I really love serial killers, and I don't mess with drug addicts. And oh my God, you guys are so cool. What do you think's in the toilet? I don't know what it is." At one point, Strong blamed his lousy childhood as the overall root of his problems. He said, "They are my actions, but I don't think I would have made those actions had I been nurtured. It was a really bad childhood."
It's everybody's fault but mine.
Yeah. "If my mom just hugged me twice more, I wouldn't have stuffed her in the toilet." One of the officers asked him if he had any sort of empathy for the murdered women, to which he replied, "I don't know. I'm kind of over it." After,
So the answer's no.
yeah, so you mean no? You could just say no. After Strong's confession to it being a body in his pipes, police did in fact find the rest of Hatchie's body inside a large freezer in Strong's bedroom. He had like a deep chest freezer in his fucking bedroom. Her blood was found on his bedroom walls and ceiling, and his semen was found on her body. The medical examiner testified that Hatchie had multiple injuries on her body, including 2 skull fractures. Doctors, however, were unable to determine a cause of death due to the state of her remains. Forensic investigators also found a large hunting knife, which is specially designed for gutting and skinning animals. It was on this knife that Candace Fitzpatrick's DNA was found, along with her blood in the freezer in his bedroom. Even with all the evidence found, Strong pled not guilty to both charges of first-degree murder. He's like, "Yeah, it's a body in there. It's in my freezer. I didn't do it. I didn't do it."
I know this sounds crazy. I know this sounds crazy, but it wasn't me.
It wasn't me. It was here when I moved in, man. I just found the body in this freezer in the bedroom, and I just thought, okay.
I don't want to move it.
Yeah.
I don't want to move it.
I want you to think it was me. It wasn't me. It was here when I moved in. Data from Google showed that Strong's phone had been at the Oshawa Harbor a week before they busted him, which was when he disposed of Hatchie's torso. During the trials, it was stated that both girls were vulnerable, were essentially homeless with no fixed address. Both girls suffered from a drug issue and sometimes worked in the sex trade to help their drug habit. Outside of the court, Hatchie's mother, Shannon Dion, said that the trial was not about her daughter being homeless or a drug addict toss-away that wasn't loved, because she was very much so loved. After the trial, the Crown found Strong guilty of 1 count of first-degree murder for the death of Hatchie and 1 count of manslaughter for the death of Fitzpatrick. He was remanded into the custody of the penal system and sentenced to life imprisonment plus 18 years for those respective offenses, to be served concurrently. Strong has no chance of being eligible for parole until he's completed 25 years of imprisonment.
Well, damn.
So there you go. So I'm not going to tell you how to dispose of a body, but don't flush it down the toilet.
They called him the dirty flusher. The triple flush.
They called him Mr. Topdecker.
They called him Shazam.
Shazam! Well, it's crazy, though, because like he Had the plumbers not been called, he wouldn't have been found. Like, literally, he wasn't tied to anything, any of the murders before, like, they found the bodies, of course, and then they started digging into his phone and stuff. But, like, had the plumbers not been called, he might not have been found, man. It would have stayed a cold case.
Ah, wow. That's crazy. All right, I'll jump into mine, and it's about vampires and prostitution.
What?
True Blood.
That's my, that's like a weekend for me.
Yeah, is that what it is?
Vampires and prostitution.
The Atlas Vampire, Sweden's darkest mystery. In the early morning hours of May 4th, 1932, a troubling odor drifted through the corridors of a modest apartment building in Atlas, a quiet, working-class neighborhood in Stockholm. This particular stench was nothing that the residents had encountered before. A thick, sickly scent that spread through the hallways, hinting at something has gone terribly wrong. Several tenants on the third floor had grown concerned. They hadn't seen or heard from their neighbor Lily Lindstrom for days. Lily was familiar to most who lived in the building, a 32-year-old woman with a quiet, enigmatic presence, whose unassuming demeanor and occasional visitors were subject of whispered gossip. Her line of work as a prostitute was something most of her neighbors knew, but chose to ignore. She'd often entertain clients in her small apartment, where she could maintain a certain level of control and privacy, but no one had seen Lily's door open nor heard her voice in days. With growing apprehension, one neighbor decided to call the police. When the officers arrived and forced their way into the apartment, they found themselves stepping into an unexpected nightmare. Lily's body was sprawled on her bed, lying face down, her head slightly turned with her clothes neatly folded beside her. It was a peculiar detail, almost as though she had undressed deliberately, perhaps in preparation for a client. The scene bore an eerie stillness, a carefully arranged tableau of normalcy hiding grotesque truth. As the officers approached, a horrific revelation unfolded before them. Lily's body was partially drained of blood. Closer to the bed, they discovered an innocuous, small drinking cup, smeared with dark stains that appeared to be blood. The sight was enough to unsettle even the most seasoned officers. Forensic analysis at the time was rudimentary, but initial findings suggested something chilling. The killer may have used the cup to consume Lily's blood. Okay, Einstein. Like, come on, right? You get in there, there's a murder, there's a cup full of blood, partially full of blood. I'm pretty sure the guy was drinking the blood from the cup. I mean, come on. The discovery horrified Stockholm. Newspapers dubbed it the Atlas Vampire Case, and speculation ran wild. Was her killer a person with a deranged obsession? Was it the act of someone who harbored a twisted ritualistic belief? Or was Stockholm dealing with someone or something darker, more monstrous? Lily's life offered only fragments, an incomplete picture of a woman who lives discreetly and independently. Born in Stockholm, she had navigated life's difficulties alone, using her charm and discretion to sustain herself. Neighbors described her as quiet and polite, though a few seemed to know her well. Her frequently entertained clients in her apartment, which was her way of avoiding the dangers of working on the streets, where many of her peers faced regular harassment and worse. Police conducted exhaustive interviews with her clients and acquaintances, hoping to find a lead. Several clients recalled recent visits, but nothing unusual in Lily's behavior. In fact, one of her regulars said, last seen visiting her on the day that she disappeared, claimed she seemed in high spirits, even optimistic about her future. But despite the police efforts, none of these interviews brought them closer to identifying her killer. Investigators combed through her apartment, finding a few personal belongings and items related to her work. The small cup was the most striking clue. Cleaned of any fingerprints, it was the silent witness to a horrific crime. Detectives pondered whether the drinking vessel had been used as an instrument of a ritual or merely an accessory of a psychological illness to obscure it was scarcely understood at the time. With few physical clues and no witnesses, detectives turned to experts of psychology, hoping that the killer's actions could be explained through a profile. The peculiar act of blood drinking, for instance, was not something Stockholm police had encountered before. At the time, psychological profiling was in its infancy, and the term serial killer was years from entering the lexicon. Yet, investigators suspected that the culprit might suffer from the rare psychological condition later known as Renfield syndrome, or clinical vampirism. Renfield syndrome is a disorder associated with the compulsion to drink blood. It's named after the character of Bram Stoker's Dracula, who believes he can gain strength and vitality by consuming blood. Though rare, instances of the disorder had been documented in psychiatric cases worldwide, often linked to individuals with disturbed psychological histories or deep-seated trauma. The syndrome was so uncommon that no local psychiatrist had direct experience with it, but the concept itself captured the public's imagination, fueling rumors of the vampire lurking in Stockholm streets. Detectives entertained with a grim possibility. Lily's death might have been the result of a twisted ritual where the killer sought to consume her life force through blood. The cup found at the scene, and seemingly trivial item, added a new dimension of horror. Had it been filled multiple times? Or was this a one-time symbolic act? Did the murderer view themselves as a vampire? Or was it the ritual simply part of a delusion, something that only made sense to them? As investigators stretched on, the public's appetite for details only grew. Each day brought a new theory in the tabloids, which ran lurid headlines and speculated wildly about Lily's killer. Some writers claimed that the murder was proof of an occult underworld in Stockholm, while others ventured that the killer had fled the city or blended back into society undetected. Yet, as summer turned into autumn, the police were no closer to solving the crime than they had been on the day of Lily's body was discovered. Officers pursued any tip they received, but the case was plagued by dead ends. One lead brought them to a local butcher, rumored to have strange fascination with blood. Another tip pointed them to a foreign sailor, supposedly seen in the neighborhood around the time of the murder. Each suspect, however, was dismissed after further inquiry, and the investigation sank further into stagnation. The last attempt, the police even consulted with spiritualists, hoping that the supernatural nature of the crime could perhaps be solved by supernatural means. Makes sense, right?
I call a seance.
But these efforts, too, proved fruitless. In time, the case grew cold, and Lily Lindström's story faded into the background of Stockholm's collective memory, a strange legend distorted by time. Today, the Atlas vampire case remains one of Sweden's most haunting, unsolved mysteries. Generations of crime enthusiasts, detectives, and historians have combed through the details, hoping to uncover something the original investigators missed. Some have proposed that the case was simply a crime of passion gone wrong. The blood drinking was an attempt to cover up or confuse the crime scene. Others still cling to a darker interpretation that Lily was the victim of a ritualistic murder conducted by someone with unexplainable psychological disturbances. Despite numerous theories, the identity of Lily's killer remains a mystery, and her death a disturbing reminder of the darkness that can lie hidden beyond the most unassuming facades. As the city of Stockholm modernized and evolved, the memories of the Atlas vampire became folklore, a whisper in the night, a ghost story told among detectives, a chilling tale of humanity's unknowable depths. And that is the story of the Atlas killer.
Interesting. I'm going to subscribe to the, what'd you call it? The mysterious...
I want to fuck your blood.
Fuck your blood?
Yeah, suck your blood,
what
man.
the fuck your blood?
That's what the vampires say, man, because they can't.
I want to suck
They're from
your
Transylvania.
Blood.
Yeah. I want to fuck your blood.
Fuck your blood, dude. I don't know what to tell you. Like, you're not saying suck, dude. It doesn't. I don't know what you're saying. You're confusing. What? I want to fuck your blood.
I just want to fuck it. I just want to fuck it.
No, it was the mysterious captain you said, right? That's like roaming the streets.
Yeah.
I don't know. It sounds kind of
Yeah,
ritualistic. I don't know. What's your thoughts? Do you think there's a vampire drinking blood?
100% was a vampire.
Guarantee.
Guarantee it.
Complete stamp of guarantee.
Yeah. Happy Halloween.
Yeah,
And don't let people fuck your blood.
Holy shit, dude. That's... Woof. Open up the second one. It's an absinthe verte. It's from Vampire Spirits. Oh, it's got real wormwood. That's good. Dude, this smells like a can of black licorice.
That's how you...
It's going to be rough.
That's how you know it's good. Gotta have your wormwood. Yeah.
All right. Let's jump into the next case. And this one is unsettling and disturbing. So we're going to start by talking about a 15-year-old girl named Tina Bowen, who back in 1986 became the target of some truly terrifying situations. So, double check that you're alone in your home, and let's get into this next case. You home alone, Cleet?
Always.
You're never home alone. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. I want to fuck your blood.
That got you, man. That got you.
I was like, what are you saying?
I want to fuck your blood.
To fuck your blood.
You're a creepy Transylvanian, man.
Jesus, Cleet, are you okay? Goes to Transylvania once, and he's wanting to fuck everyone's blood. Okay.
Went to this castle. He's trying to fuck everyone's blood.
There's blood everywhere, and everyone was just trying to get after it. It was weird. All right. Over the course of several weeks in late fall of 1986, strange things began happening at the Bowens' home at 93 Lawrence Street in Pepperell, near Townsend. One night, after Tina and her sister used a Ouija board in the hopes of contacting their deceased mother, they were unsuccessful, but weird things began happening after their failed attempt. TV channels would randomly change while they were watching it, and milk would mysteriously vanish as if being consumed. Just cartons of milk, gone, man, just fucking gone. Bottles of alcohol were emptied and left discarded throughout the house. These were simply waved off from their father as pranks between the girls.
It's just women being women.
But then, strange and eerie messages began popping up around the house. Messages like, "Marry me," and "I'm in your room, come and find me," were written on the walls with mayonnaise and ketchup. Even more concerning was a family photo that was pinned to the wall by a knife. These encounters became more ominous and troubling, as one night the family found the bathtub full of urine, along with a trail of pennies on the floor, with several of them being glued to the ceiling.
Just women being women, man.
Always just pissing in the bathtub and gluing pennies to the ceiling, man. I don't know why they do what they do.
It's really weird.
Every time I leave my wife home alone, fucking shit happens. I don't get it. Writes on the walls with ketchup. On December 8th, 1986, the girls came home and found that someone had used their toilet. The girls told their dad that they had not been doing any of the weird shit in the house for the past several weeks and that something was terribly wrong. Frank Bowen, their dad, began searching the house for a potential intruder. He opened a wardrobe to find a teenage boy with his face painted, wearing a Native American-style jacket and a ninja mask while brandishing a hatchet. The teenager hurried them into a bedroom where he locked them in before vanishing. Tina had luckily escaped and left through a window, running to a neighbor's house to call the police. The police arrived and performed a search of the house. To the family's dismay, they found nobody. So the Bowens left their house to stay with a relative, fearing to go home until whoever was in their house was caught. But again, the police did a thorough search. Nothing was found. 2 days later, Frank returned to his house to gather some belongings so that they could take it back to where they were staying. As he pulled up to the house and into the driveway, he spotted a figure in the second-story window, peering down at him from his home. He rushed inside and found another eerie message written on a family photo that said, "I'm still here. Come find me." Frank called the police again, and they immediately came to the home for another search. This search, unlike the first, was successful, as they finally discovered the culprit, a teenage boy named Daniel LaPlante, who was hiding in a cramped triangular wall cavity in their cellar, where he had been living for weeks, potentially months. Daniel went to school with Tina and had become obsessed with her after a date that they had gone on over Easter break. They stopped seeing each other when several other classmates confided in Tina, saying that Daniel was facing rape charges. After being dumped and left behind by Tina, Daniel gained access to her home through a small crawl space, where he began to torment the family. That night that Tina and her sister had been using the Ouija board, he was like watching, which gave him the idea to pretend to be a ghost that was like haunting them. So they're trying to contact her mom, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna fuck with them so hard." He's like, "I'm your mommy.
I'm your mom. Bring me money."
I'm gonna piss in your bathtub like mommy used to. Oh damn,
Bro.
he peed in the whole bathtub, dude. No, the pennies.
Yeah.
Yeah, take that out. That was weird. I'm your mommy. A British.
I want to fuck your blood.
Oh, Jesus. Here we go again. A British author named Joe Turner said he haunted his victims for almost a year, constantly upped his game as the months went by, and even watched them from behind the walls doing their most intimate moments. He went on to say that it began as Daniel using the home as a hiding space to simply spy on Tina, but as the months went on, he became obsessed with the idea of traumatizing them, which fed his desire to haunt them overall. LaPlante was immediately arrested at the Bowens home and sent swiftly to a juvenile detention center. He was only there for less than a year, being released in October of 1987, when his mother remortgaged her home to pay for his $10,000 bail. He returned home to await trial, but during that time, he carried out a burglaring spree in the local area, stealing two .22 caliber firearms. It was during this waiting period that LaPlante committed his worst crime yet. On November 16, 1987, LaPlante targeted the household of the Gustafson family. The family consisted of Priscilla Gustafson, who was a 33-year-old pregnant nursery school teacher, her husband Andrew, and their two children, 5-year-old William and 7-year-old Abigail. LaPlante returned to the Gustafson home after his first burglary. His second visit took place on December 1st, 1987, where he walked through the woods that separated their homes, wielding his stolen .22. He claimed that he didn't expect Priscilla and her children to come home during his second invasion. As they arrived home with LaPlante inside, it crossed his mind briefly to jump out of the window and escape. Instead, he chose to confront Priscilla, pointing the gun at her and leading her and her son to the bedroom. He put William in the closet, then tied Priscilla to the bed using makeshift ligatures and gagging her with one of his socks. He then raped Priscilla. When he was finished, he shot her twice in the head, killing her. He then grabbed William from the closet and led him to the bathroom where he drowned him in the bathtub. Abigail arrived home from school shortly after. LaPlante ran into her while he was leaving. He lured her into the other bathroom where he drowned her as well. Andrew had been calling Priscilla all day from work with no luck. He returned home to an eerily quiet home where he found Priscilla's body. He fled the house immediately and called the police. He later reported, "I was too afraid of going to look for my children because I was afraid that I'd find them dead. It was so shocking and unbelievable. I screamed. I wailed." During the investigation, police found a shirt and gloves in the woods behind the Gustafson house. They were still wet from when they were used to drown the children. They used search dogs to track the scent and followed them to LaPlante's home. The evening after the murders, LaPlante was interrogated. Lacking sufficient evidence to arrest him on the spot, the police made a plan to return the following day. However, when they returned, LaPlante had fled, which initiated a massive manhunt. Shortly after, another burglary spree happened in Pepperell, where LaPlante was found hiding in a dumpster. He was arrested on the evening of December 3rd, 1987. LaPlante went on trial for the Gustafson murders in October 1988, where the jury found him guilty of murder and he was convicted of 3 life sentences. He appealed for a reduced sentence in 2017, but the judge found that he was not remorseful for his crimes and affirmed the 3 consecutive life sentences. He won't be up for parole for another 45 years.
Wow, what a fucker.
That'd be creepy, man. Like, you just, weird shit happens in your house. Like, and you're the girls, right? And you're like, you do this Ouija board and all of a sudden shit starts happening. Like, that's gotta fuck with your head pretty hard. And then you find this guy who ties you up, locks you away, hides in your house again. You have to leave, and turns out to be like your ex-boyfriend. Then he just fucking goes and murders a family. It's crazy.
I hope he drowns in a prison toilet.
That'd be an easy way out for him, man. Just saying.
All right, the next story I'm going to be talking about could be about UFOs, but I don't know. It's called The Lead Masks Case, Brazil's Unsolved Mystery. High on the slopes of Morro da Vintem, a forested hill overlooking a bustling city of Neutro, Brazil, an eerie discovery lay waiting. It was August 20th, 1966, when a young man hiking through the hills stumbled upon a scene so bizarre, so deeply perplexing, that it would ignite one of Brazil's most confounding mysteries, the lead mask case. In the tangled underbrush of the hill, the lifeless bodies of two men were sprawled out on their backs, dressed in neat suits, their eyes shielded by strange, crudely cut lead masks. They carried no signs of struggle, no visible injuries, but their pockets lay cryptic clues, a series of objects and notes that would perplex investigators and haunt conspiracy theories for decades to come. On that fateful day when police arrived at the scene, they were immediately struck by the sheer oddity of the men's appearance. Identified as 32-year-old Manuel Pereira da Cruz and 34-year-old Miguel Jose Viana, two electronic repairmen from Campos del Goitacazes. The men lay neatly side by side, dressed in identical formal suits, waterproof jackets, and most curiously, lead masks covering their eyes. The lead masks were unlike anything the officers had ever seen before. Simple, handmade eye shields, apparently cut from sheets of industrial lead. They weren't meant to protect against anything physical. They were light, flimsy, and held no practical purpose. But what were they shielding their eyes from? The police searched the area for clues and found little to illuminate the scene's mystery. In the men's pockets, they found a water bottle, an empty notebook, and, most curious of all, a small handwritten note. In cryptic terms, the note read, 1630. Be at the specified location. 1830. Ingest capsules. After effect, protect metals. Await signal. Mask.
What the hell?
Yeah, dude, it's fucking weird, dude. It's weird. The message was strange. Mysterious instructions implying a sequence of events that pointed to some sort of ritual or plan. Yet it was bafflingly incomplete, offering no explanation of who wrote the note or why these instructions were meant to be followed. To understand the possible reasons behind their deaths, police began digging into their lives of Manuel and Miguel. Both men lived quiet lives, working as electronic repairmen and sharing an interest in amateur radio and spiritualism, a fascination with the unexplained that was common in Brazil during the 1960s. In particular, the men were drawn to the spiritual energy theories circulating in certain circles at the time, convinced that harnessing unseen energies could lead to enlightenment, connection with extraterrestrial beings, or even communication with spirits. Friends and family described them as rational men, not prone to erratic behavior. Yet their fascination with the paranormal went far beyond idle curiosity. According to those who knew them, Manuel and Miguel had dabbled in occult experiments in the past, attempting to communicate with entities they believed existed beyond the material world. In the months leading up to their deaths, both men had grown obsessed with constructing devices they believed could tune into the otherworldly frequencies, devices they thought might capture or channel energy from other dimensions or distant planets. The lead masks added yet another layer to this fascination with unseen forces. The masks, according to those in similar spiritualist circles, were designed to protect the wearers from radiation or powerful energies emanating from the higher planes. But what kind of signal could they have been hoping to receive on that quiet hillside? Piecing together the last known movements of Manuel and Miguel, investigators uncovered a series of unusual steps that only deepened the mystery. On August 17th, 3 days before their bodies were discovered, the two men left their hometown with enough money to buy some supplies, telling their families that they were headed to Sao Paulo to purchase a used car. In reality, they arrived to Nierto and checked into a small hotel. Witnesses reported that the men seemed anxious but determined, even refusing to interact much with other guests. At one point, they visited a local electronics shop to buy a waterproof jacket, items they presumably wore for their journey. Witnesses claimed that the men asked about the availability of specific materials related to their work, suggesting that they were preparing for something of great importance. But that was where the trail grew cold. Their interactions gave no indication of what they intended to do on Morro do Vientem, and why they would engage in such a mysterious ritual. One peculiar detail stood out. A bartender who served the men a few hours before they ascended the hill remembered Miguel clutching a small glass vial. Some speculated this may have been the capsules mentioned in the note, but this was never confirmed. Investigators suspected that the capsules could have been part of the men's final ritual, possibly even containing a substance that would enable or enhance their spiritual journey. The sparse evidence left investigators and the public alike with more questions than answers, and soon the theories flourished, spanning everything from the paranormal to criminal foul play. So, given Brazil's UFO craze in the 1960s and the men's known interest in extraterrestrial life, some proposed that they had intended to make contact with aliens. The lead masks, according to UFO enthusiasts, would shield their eyes from harmful rays or signals emitted by the extraterrestrial beings. The timing of the capsule ingestion in the note fueled this theory, as some believed it could have been a way to facilitate the encounter by inducing an altered state of consciousness. Others posited that Manuel and Miguel had been testing a device to harness spiritual or cosmic radiation. Based on their interest in electronics and parapsychology, the masks could have been intended to protect them from harmful emissions. However, there were no signs of radiation in the area, and no such device was ever found near the bodies. Spiritual groups of Brazil often performed rituals involving uses of substances and protective gear as they attempted to pierce the veil and communicate with spirits. Some believe that Manuel and Miguel, while awaiting for the signal, had attempted to contact the spirit world and had fallen victim to an accidental overdose or poisoning, though no toxic substances were found in initial examinations. Finally, a darker theory emerged. Perhaps someone else had lured them into the ritual, with promises of enlightenment or contact with the otherworldly. They might have been given a toxic substance disguised as a spiritual capsule, leading them to their deaths under the guise of a grander purpose. Autopsies were conducted to determine the cause of death, yet strangely, they yielded no clear answers. The medical examiner found no signs of trauma, no toxic substances, and no clear cause of death. It was though both men had simply ceased to live, their bodies betraying no clues about what might have led to their final moments. The lack of any physical explanation was one of the case's most confounding aspects. If they had indeed taken the capsules as the note suggested, they had left no trace. Investigators were left to conclude that the men had died from something so obscure it even evaded medical detection, or that the note and lead masks were part of a more elaborate stage setup. In the years that followed, the lead mask case became a source of fascination for paranormal researchers, investigators, and conspiracy theorists around the world. Each new theory added layers to the story, already dense with ambiguity and horror, making the case a symbol of the unknown. To this day, the lead mask case remains unsolved, its haunting details provoking speculation and debate among those who yearn to understand what happened on that hillside in 1966. Did Manuel and Miguel truly believed that they were destined to make contact with beings from beyond? Had they stumbled upon a ritual that no one else could comprehend? Or had they simply fallen victim to a cruel, inexplicable twist of fate? As the years pass, the case's bizarre details echo in Brazil's collective memory, a chilling reminder of humanity's drive to explore the unknown. Even that journey takes us to places from which we may never return.
Damn.
Pretty creepy stuff. Happy Halloween.
Ooh.
Ooh.
It's crazy. The lead masks, man. I think that it's with their fascination with like the technology and protection. I think that they were just trying to experiment with shit they want to be protected from.
Yeah, I think the aliens took them, man. Clearly.
Oh, of course. Well, that's going to wrap us up for this evening on our last episode of Spooktober. Huge thank you to our paid supporters of the show, Soylent, Cleet, Modelo Time, Cleet Feet, Curtis and Lara, Mothman, Devin, Lara, Conklin family, and Lou. As always, your paid support of the show is tremendously helpful. Thank you very much for your constant support. And if you yourself would like to become a paid supporter of our show, click the link below. There's several tiers to choose from. And if you want to donate one time to the beer fund or any other fund you would like, there's a link below for that as well. If you have a topic or suggestion you'd like us to cover, email us at entertheabysspod@gmail.com. We're happy to dive into almost any topic, because I'm sure there's a couple topics that maybe we won't even dive into, but the abyss is dark and deep and full of secrets.
If you're listening to us on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe, as it really helps us get us out there. And as always, thank you for entering the abyss.
Until next time, happy Halloween.